Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to ROG Pulse. My name is Jake Kalinsky, and this week we are talking about PC DIY with my colleague Chris Barr and our first ever guest, Andie the Lab, also known as Deb. Deb, welcome to Pulse.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you, and it's a pleasure to have you once again, Chris. Chris, what's new? What's good? What's in front of you?
A whole lot of excitement. That's what's in front of me. I've finally gotten my hands on a 3080, and it's for an exciting all-white build that I'm working on. You can see the majority of my components here. You can even see the Lian Li case back here. Very excited about that. I'm sure we'll dive into that in a little bit, but this is currently occupying the forefront of my mind.
It is, and that's your foreground. Deb, your background is something impressive to look at. I mean,
Yeah.
wow.
So I'm technically considered an automotive journalist, and so as a result, I get access to vehicles directly from the manufacturer that I film and post a video on each week. But I do it uniquely with my yellow labs. Started as Andie the Lab, but I now have Andie and Abby as my co-hosts, or actually they're more like my bosses. So yeah, and I've also kind of delved into PC DIY and sim racing.
So sim racing,
It looks like you've dove in head first.
yeah, like really deep. And you know, it makes sense for like sim racing to be like a transitional thing, especially because a lot of people got into that with the pandemic. It's a great activity to do at home. It's a great way to connect with people that are into the same thing as you in a safe way. Is that one of the main variables that got you interested in PC building?
Exactly. So I basically got connected with ASUS, and then I kind of got introduced to more or less this whole sim racing world that I really wasn't aware of how big this world of sim racing is, especially when COVID hit. But just one thing led to another, and I kind of got a little interested in what this whole PC building is about. And because I consider myself more of a filmmaker, I was very intrigued to film a PC. Because there's a lot of unique things that you can do with it that you can't do as easily with a big vehicle. So
Wow, we're doing a show on PC DIY, and Moz by Ben just snuck in the chat. That's intimidating. That's a legend in the field right there.
there you go.
Mm-hmm. So you're
about beautiful artwork he makes.
Yeah.
I love it.
Sculptures.
Stunning photographs.
All right, so Andie, you're fairly new to the space. Chris, how about you? When did you start building, and what got you interested in building?
I've been building since I was a teenager. I had my first PC. I grew up in a Mac household, which was nice and all, but we didn't have access to a lot of games because Macs weren't made for gaming. But when I was a teenager, I got a hold of an old PC, and it worked fine for a little while. But then I had the chance. My brother had some old spare parts from some of his old builds, and it was just kind of like, he considered it garbage. To me, it was a treasure. And he was like, if you can find working parts in there to put something together, it's all yours. And I had tinkered with my own PC, but that was the first time I'd put one together. And just the elation when I got it all together and I hit that power button and it booted. And I got to the BIOS and I was like, oh my God, I did this. Like, this was just a hunk of electronics, a pile of electronics before. And just knowing that I had built something and it could run my games better than the previous machine.
Yeah,
I was hooked. From then on, I was hooked. Absolutely.
My story, my story is not
your
too,
first?
It's not too different. But I grew up in with three brothers, so four boys in a house. We just had consoles, right? Because 4-player games, Mario Party, etc., all those kind of stuff. I really wanted my own experience, and I remember going to a friend's house, and his parents ran a computer repair shop, like right in their house. That's what they did, and I was just fascinated by it, watching them, learning from them. From my friend and his brother and his father, they really taught me how to build, and I just thought it was the coolest thing. So, I got a small job. I think I was like 16 years old. I got a job on the weekends, working under the table just to save up like $15 a week. And eventually I saved up enough to build this horrible PC. Like it was really just barely able to do what I wanted to do with secondhand parts, but it was glorious. And, from then on, it just, obviously it's propelled into, well, enthusiast building at this point and beyond. But, I think one of the big questions that everyone has when they're interested in looking at PC building is, well, why would I want to do that if I could just buy a pre-built PC? And I think there's a few different reasons. There's a lot of different ways to look at this. But the first and foremost thing for you, Chris, what would it be? Is it the satisfaction? Is it the price point? Is it?
It's really all of them, but I think for me, it's the customization. I like especially when it comes to technology, my electronics, I like to have the exact thing. I'll research it and it's like, okay, this is exactly what I want. And when it comes to PC DIY, I can build exactly what I want. And I think that's really the biggest draw for me.
Is that the same for you, Deb?
I mean, being that I'm newer at this, for me, definitely there's a sense of accomplishment, and it just feels it's such a rewarding feeling to when you finally get everything together and do the countdown. I always do a countdown and press on that power button, and when it just lights up, it's just that feeling. You're not going to get that with something that's already pre-built. I mean, it's still exciting to turn it on and see it light up, but you know that you built that thing. You created that, and that's what's super exciting. Plus, it is very cool if you can, figure out what parts you want, even if it just means saving up, waiting a little bit longer to get something that really looks just a little special, whether it's an all white build or, shout out to Ben, who is, just makes these beautiful PCs, which, by the way, Ben, I just want to say, I know he's in Texas and he's without electricity, and just like huge support for like just being here tonight. So just appreciate you and hope you're staying safe.
Seriously, yeah, crazy times. Especially
he's
down
using
in
what
Texas.
little power he has to get on our stream to be with
exactly.
us. Big shout out, Ben.
Again, so just everyone watching right now, if you're interested in PC DIY, we actually have a special initiative happening all month, and you can go to asuspcdiy.com to learn more. There are some giveaways there, and we're going to be doing all kinds of stuff throughout the month of February, really just celebrating PC building. There's several reasons why PC DIY is great for you, and like, yes, the customization. We were talking just as we were setting up for the show. Andie was mentioning that you love just the cable management, just that satisfaction of like making every line exactly how you want it, smoothing it out, getting that Velcro perfect.
Yes.
It's like therapy for some people.
Exactly. Something very therapeutic about it. I mean, just put on, I think with one of the first build I did, I put on a movie and just had it playing. Sometimes I listen to music, and while I'm doing it the whole time, I'm thinking, my goodness, someone probably would have stopped an hour ago, and here I am just like trying to get it perfect. But at the end of the day, when it's all clean, again, I think that feeling is better than when you turn on the power button, just having that sense of clean cabling.
And it adds to that sense when you press the power button, because all of that clean cabling is good and you don't have to redo anything.
That's true.
Yeah. No,
it's absolutely a kind of a zen kind of feeling. Like I've built a lot of systems over the years, especially, reviewing hardware. And yeah, same thing. I'll put on like a movie, usually an old favorite that I don't have to pay too much attention to. I can listen to, Star Wars or something, Lord of the Rings, real fun. And just sink myself into getting everything just into the right place. And it's actually become a lot easier to do now.
Yes.
Deb, you do a lot more. Your builds are just like out of this world intense.
Well, just to piggyback though on well, thank you for that. But also I enjoy the challenge. But also the reason why that I spend so much time on cabling is, okay, I am a content creator and I'm a female in this space. So that alone, is like a target for people to call you out on every little thing. So if I even when I build the PC and I have the entire video showing me doing it, I get called out saying, "There's no way you built that." I'm like, "I built it." Okay. So
Wow.
if the cables are
That's all.
messy, that is just another target for someone to just like, and so that's always in the back of my head too. I have to be honest. Like, I want to get this the cleanest, the nicest looking back, cable management ever, because it's kind of
Show
like,
them all.
yeah, that's right. Being a female, no offense, but we do have really good attention to detail. And my fingers are a little bit tinier than most. So I'm able to
It's
really
true.
kind of, get in there and
The number of times where like I dropped a screw or I can't get it into the right spot,
oh,
and I call my wife over, I'm like, "Yo, can you do this?" Like, seriously, like it's that's a real thing because I got big sausage fingers, and it's not always the best
Same.
for PC building. But just kind of like getting back
sausage
to
fingers.
talking about getting into PC building and being a new user that's interested in this. I think about when I first got into it back in like 2004. And way back then, like the resources to learn how to build were nowhere near what they are today. The way that the cases were built were nowhere near as accessible when it came to cable management and quality of life things, and just the way, just the design in general was a lot worse than it is modern day. Nowadays, we have some amazing resources that I just want to point everyone to, and that's PC Part Picker. It is one of the best resources any user that's interested in building a PC could use, because it's like a failsafe. You go in, you choose the parts you want. You can sort by, if you're trying to do a white build, you can sort it by white or white and black or whatever you want to do. Find the right components from the brands that you want to purchase from, Asus obviously, and then you'll be able to just select all those parts. If something does not happen to line up, for example, I just built a PC for my wife recently, and the motherboard did not have the right USB Type-C port for the front of the case. And, the website let me know. That's huge. Like, that's a little detail that, like, I wasn't thinking about that personally. And I would have, made a mistake. So I had to change the motherboard for the build.
That's such a handy tool. I mean, back in the day, there were, you had internet forums and stuff, but like no tools like that, which would, kind of hold your hand in a way that you need, especially when you're first starting out. I think it's absolutely an invaluable resource.
Yeah, no, it's great. Just this is kind of what I ended up with personally. Built this PC for my wife. She loves it. And actually, no, we that's a second motherboard that we got. We got a few motherboards in the house. She ended up with a Crosshair 8 Hero. So this photo was a little bit, we decided she wanted more USB ports after the fact. I was like, all right, we'll change it out. I can respect that. But this is, the most recent build I've done. Unfortunately, I'm a sloth, and I did not get a nice photo of this for the stream today. But I want to take a step back and look at Chris's early beginnings.
Oh man.
I think.
Yes, let's see. Do you have that photo?
I do.
Thankfully, it's just a photo of the PC, which is old enough, but we don't need to see any of me from back then. But yeah, I think this is
for some reason
build from
it does
back
not
in 2009.
Yeah, it doesn't want to open.
So
That's
with
really
your
weird.
wife's computer, did you use any special color cables, or just kind of what was?
I went full classic default. It's like, I call it a panda build because it's white and black. So
there you go.
It really
Nice.
does work out nicely. Wow, Chris, your photo won't open in OBS for some reason. Tragic. I don't know why.
It's that old and terrible.
It's that old.
Too old.
The file. Oh yeah, actually the file type says it's a JFIF. I don't know what that means.
Weird.
I don't know how that happened, but in either case, we do have everything in front of you, so we can go ahead and talk about the build that you're currently preparing.
All right, so this is like I said, this is an all white build. So we started with the Z590A motherboard, the Prime, which is the best board that we have for a white build if you want to go with a 10th gen or 11th gen Intel CPU. Right now I've got a 10th gen in there, obviously. Next month we'll be looking at upgrading that, which is fun. But X570 is a great platform. It brings a lot to the Intel game, PCIe 4.0, something really nice. On our particular motherboards, we have some really cool features like AI noise cancellation, which in this day and age of Zoom meetings and of course playing games with your friends, it takes your microphone input and silences all the background noise. Like let's say you have a couple of yellow labs that are making noise behind you when you're trying to do your sim racing. It'll take care of that for you. So it's really nice. I'm really excited about it.
Well, it's two-way AI noise cancellation, if I'm not mistaken,
it's
too.
two-way.
So you can.
It's actually gonna.
Yeah.
It'll actually take care of your friends' comms if they have kids,
a yellow
or
lab in the
construction,
back making
or a
noise.
yellow lab.
I can mute
It's gonna
Andie's
take care of it.
Andie and Abby in the background.
And one of my favorite features, the most exciting features, I guess, about Z590, it's not actually on this board because I don't need Wi-Fi in my particular setup, but Wi-Fi 6E is a new standard of Wi-Fi that is faster, and it actually, one of the best parts about it is it uses the 6 gigahertz standard, which is a channel that isn't as congested. We have tons of 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz. Yeah, it's really crowded, and you lose some of those speeds, not because your router isn't strong enough or you don't have a good enough Wi-Fi card. It's just there's too many
competing lines.
Devices. You're competing with everything else, and it's exciting. And I bring it up even though it's not on this board. I actually have our Maximus Hero, which is a beautiful board that also
I'm gonna need to take that.
It is Wi-Fi 6E compatible, and 6E it's a very new technology, and we actually have the first and only full ecosystem for Wi-Fi 6E. So you can actually buy one of our Wi-Fi 6E routers, pair it with one of our Z590 boards, and you're gonna have the best Wi-Fi speeds.
Yep.
I'm gushing about that, but I'm ready to gush about this, which is the ROG Strix 3080 White Edition.
Oh my god.
And I gotta show this thing off. Like, first off, it's massive in comparison to even the size of the motherboard. Like, it's about the size of 320 millimeter fans. But this card is gorgeous. It's got your LEDs up here,
adjustable strip,
full Aura Sync compatibility.
Yep. I believe it's 3
Got
display
that
port,
cutout
1
from
HDMI.
Maximum. Correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And no, it is a beautiful beast of a card. I know everyone's trying to get a hold of one these days. I've been trying to get a hold of a 30 series card. You finally got your hands on one not too long ago.
Yeah, I have the
3070. Very jealous of.
Yeah.
And no, it's really exciting because I'm always playing the latest games. Like, I'm always crushing frames, and I like to play at high frame rates. So this is going to be awesome. And then we've got also our memory here from Team Group, as well as the Gen 4 M.2 drive, PCIe 4.0 NVMe drive, and then the tiniest PSU.
Let's actually pump it really quick, pump the brakes, because one thing that's really interesting about this when you're getting into a new PC, we just said M.2 drive, and somebody might not know what that is. If you've never built a PC before, this is basically a new format of solid state drives. They're super tiny, they're extremely fast, and it's basically the disk space technology, hard drive technology, going even beyond what we've done. I mean, that technology is expanding and improving faster than anything else in the space, and that is so small. Like,
it's itty bitty, absolutely tiny. And one of my favorite things is the fact that it cuts down on the number of cables in your PC. Back in the day, a hard drive or even original solid state drives, you still needed a power cable and a data cable. This I can actually just plug right in here, and that's it. And I just need,
many of our motherboards have shrouds that cover it, so you'll never even notice it once it's plugged in. It's really cool. So anyways, you can continue with the full overview here.
And then this is the tiniest power supply I've ever used.
How many watts?
It's from Corsair, and this is a 750 watt.
Okay.
So it's enough to take care of the 3080, which is a very powerful and power hungry card.
So that's another thing where PC Part Picker is an amazing resource, because knowing what wattage you need to support all the components of the PC is another thing that people are oftentimes like, I don't know. And it'll just tell you, right? It just will straight up let you know. Really, with these 30 series cards, you're looking at 750 as the minimum, I think. But yeah, sorry.
I just put
and
in that one right there, the red one.
nice. Yeah, I love these little power supplies, and that's something that you typically don't think of a lot unless you're building a mini build. But if you're coming to the space and you haven't been building PCs, you don't know that there are different sizes of power supplies. And the case I have back here, I'm really excited about it. But the power supply, it's on the side of the case here, so it's got to fit into such a small area, and that's where something like this comes in handy.
Yeah.
And this is basically, these are just some fans. They've got some great RGB. They're Aura Sync compatible, so that's gonna go great with the board. But this is basically everything you need to put together a PC. I am missing. I've got an all-in-one cooler, our Strix LC 360 coming in, also the white edition to match everything.
Nice.
That's what's holding up my build. But I'm excited that it is holding up, because it's giving me a chance to kind of lay it out here and talk about it. But other than that, this is basically everything you need to put together a PC. So you've got your graphics card, that'll go into your PCIe slot right here. You've got your memory to go in here. Your power supply, we've got some cables to plug in here.
That's where the cable management comes in. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, you're going to want to route those typically on the back of the case so that you don't see them. It doesn't interfere with airflow, things like that. But basically, with this screwdriver here, I can put all of this together and build a PC fairly quickly. There's not a lot of cabling to do anymore. It's mostly just figuring out how to get the power cables, say, to the graphics card and not, showing them, that kind of thing. But really, it's just power cables. And that's really it.
You mentioned just
data cables.
Go ahead, Deb.
Go ahead.
Oh, I know. Well, I noticed. So the thing with the AIOs is that it also already comes more or less with the paste on, so you don't even have. So for people that are, because for some, like, that step alone is terrifying. Putting thermal paste on a CPU and not knowing. I mean, because I learned by going to YouTube, watching other YouTubers. Reading the manuals, trying to figure this out. And yeah, actually, the manuals are a lifesaver when it comes to cabling. It really is. But even with applying thermal paste, for someone who's never done it, you have some people that just do a dot. You have some that say do an X. You have some that are like painting it, and you're like, oh my gosh.
Yep.
So the cool thing with the AIO is, so my question to you is, like, in the past, I've actually wiped it down and applied my thermal paste because I am filming. I end up, I feel like I've touched it in a way that I'm not comfortable just putting it on. Like, I'm like, I got to clean this. Yep. So do you apply your own thermal paste, Chris, or do you just leave whatever's on the AIO to attach to the CPU?
If it's a brand new AIO and it already has the thermal paste on it, a lot of times I'll go ahead and still use that. Like, it's fine. If I have removed it from the CPU for any reason, I typically always clean the heatsink, clean the CPU, and apply a fresh little dab of thermal paste.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always start fresh.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's something that I was taught to do from the beginning. I've always used the P technique, just a one little P in the middle, and that's it.
That I have seen some good comparisons where people have done, before and after of each of the different methods, the X, the 2 or the 3 lines, the dot, the several dots, and it showed the dot working best, and I've never had an issue with that. And if you do it right, you don't have any extra that bubbles over the side or anything. So
it's all preference for a lot of
people.
people.
More intimidating stages. Yes.
Yeah, I think the most important thing, if you're doing this for the first time, is just to make sure you don't use too much. There is absolutely such a thing as using too much thermal paste. You want a nice, even, thin layer on the CPU, and then you're set. Then you're Gucci.
That's right.
Yep.
All right, so we've got some other cool stuff we can look at here, Chris. We'll come back to your previous build soon, but Deb, let's take a look at some of your builds. This one you have is, believe the one right behind you, if I'm not mistaken. The black and red beast.
Yes. This guy right here. So this is my most recent one. It's a team red build. The intention was to have it done for Valentine's Day. And the goal of this build was to basically show a double AIO configuration with the CPU and GPU. So basically, how one could get liquid cooling without making some sort of crazy custom loop. And all in all, I have to say, it's not a hard build. However, I made it a little bit more complicated because more for aesthetic purposes, which that video will go live tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
So if anyone watching wants to head to our channel, you can definitely check that out tomorrow. But more or less, I kind of reconfigured the GPU AIO so that it would sit a little bit more cleanly, the radiator section in the back, and not jet out as much. And then I had to pull the tubing off and reconfigure it in a different orientation, like you see on the back there. And overall, I'm very happy with how it came out, but it just required a little extra thinking. And then I had to refilm it, and so... But yeah, this build is, I'm actually going to be using this as a racing server for my sim racing.
Oh, wow.
And so anyone who sim races, you can also join with me and we can race together.
I'm looking to get myself a full setup before the year is over, so we'll battle.
Awesome.
That's cool.
I only have played Assetto Corsa Competizione, ACC.
Okay.
So make sure you get that game.
I'll have to. I just want to master drift racing, and I don't.
But you see that photo right there? Okay, stop right there. So I had to add 90-degree fittings because the way I had to reroute the tubing from outside back under up to the GPU, the tubes were too short. So I was like, oh goodness, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just see, and it was perfect. It literally fit perfectly. But the only thing about this build that's irking me a little bit is if you look closely, the GPU is like slightly kind of slanted a little, like it's too heavy. So there's like
you need a mounting bracket or something. Yeah.
You need a bracket, and I would have loved to mount this vertically, but I just didn't have the kit. So next PC, or because I'm not going to want to take this apart after I've done it. But yeah, I might just have to prop it up a little. I mean, it's really not. It's not like it's slanted like that. But if you really stare at it, I'm sure someone's going to call me out.
A lot of our new motherboards are actually coming with GPU brackets in the box now.
Which
several
is so
of
cool.
our Z590s. I was looking through the box stuff because I'm going to be doing unboxings next week for some of the motherboards, and I was really excited to see that because it's a problem when you have a GPU that weighs 70 pounds. It doesn't weigh 70, but it feels like it.
I currently have a vertically mounted 3070, and it is a very, very heavy GPU. And I do not have a bracket right now, but I did stick like a Lego basically underneath it just because I'm like, better safe than sorry. But that's not a long-term solution. That is my temporary fix, as I just put it in there last week. Let's transition to your opposite spectrum. You have a white build that I am head over heels for. I'm
head over heels in love with this little one too. Well, I call it a little one because it's not as big as that. I'm pointing the wrong direction. So that was a really special build. It was an all-white build.
Beautiful.
that I did with my nephew. And again, I come from a side where I am not from the PC world.
Right.
So PC building for me is completely new territory. But I wanted my nephew. So the goal of this project was one, just, I mean, I knew it was going to just be beautiful, just from an aesthetic standpoint. I was going to love filming it, but also basically teach my nephew, like, you can do this. This is something that is totally possible. And what a fun project to do with your niece or nephew or your son or daughter. And so he thought he was just kind of helping me showcase kids building PCs. And then at the very end, I basically was like, hey, so guess what? You just built your first PC. This is for you. So, yeah, it was really quite special. But I love seeing, when I was going through photos to send to you, I was like, oh man, I just love that thing.
That's
so cool.
That's gorgeous, and you're definitely getting Aunt of the Year for sure. That is a gorgeous build.
Well,
I hope my white build turns out as good as that one.
I know mine did not. Now I got to step my game up.
It's definitely a little bit on the extreme side, but again, we're shooting for YouTube. He's family, and it's gonna, it's gonna set him up for a long time. So
very cool.
Yeah,
be the envy of everyone at school.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. I can't even imagine rolling up to a LAN party with that machine. Back in the glory days, like, parties. Oh my God. Okay, and last but not least, we have this dark build. I don't know, what do you name your PCs?
Well, you know what, I call this just the Z11 because it's but I should start naming them. I think that's a really good idea.
It's a fun thing.
This was a really this one was for PC DIY day. And the intention behind this video was to, if people who are watching, if you go to this video on YouTube, this is the video that I feel, if you have all the components, if you watch this video, you will literally know what to do in terms of building a PC from start to finish. So I filmed this one a little bit differently, where I physically actually point out on the manual and the cables, like, this is your USB, 2.0. This is your audio cable, your front panel connector, because that's one thing that I feel when you're trying to learn is harder to pick up on some of the YouTube videos, because I think cable management sometimes is glossed over more. And when you're learning, you're like, is this what I think it is? Where does this really go? So my intention with that video is, use it as a learning tool. And this was a very funny build, because that picture right there, the power supply. So that's a larger power supply for that type of a case. And when I got to sliding it in, I was like, wait a second, I know this is supposed to fit in this case, but it's not going in.
Oh,
so there's a section of the video where I was like, the metal like cable ties were interfering. So I had to basically just chisel them out. So the opening of that video is me just like hammering it with a chisel, and people are probably like, "What the heck is this woman doing?"
PC building's hard. I didn't know I needed a chisel. Jeez.
But I will say the challenge with that was the cables. Oh wow, that took me hours. To get that was a really tight space to clean up and organize in the back. I don't know if I sent you a picture of the back of that, but that I probably could have watched Lord of the Rings 10 times 3 and still
just
the smaller the case, the more difficult it is to do cable management, because you just don't have the room to hide everything.
Definitely.
And also these days, like, every fan, if you do an RGB, every fan's got 2 cables, so you're routing all of that through the back of the board. And
RGB
that can
adds
be
a lot.
nightmare.
It does. It does add a lot of things to
And
worry
speed,
about.
at speed.
It does. That frame rate. You know,
Frame rate,
just
man.
just generally speaking, if somebody's getting into PC building, how many tools do you guys use per build? Deb, we'll start with you. How many tools do you have set up for building an average PC?
In terms of like screwdrivers and stuff?
Yeah.
I have the the entire iFixit kit.
Mhm.
And so I pretty much just have two screwdrivers, and generally one is like a little bit bigger of a Phillips head. I mean, the EK stuff that I use is a little bit of a different head. So sometimes I'll just change the head or just use the tool that they provided. You don't really need a lot of tools, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, except when you're doing all your custom tubing.
Well,
if you consider,
yeah.
oh well, that's different. Of course, that's different. So this one, I'm pointing the opposite direction. If you are going to do more of a custom water loop system, I have like a kit where you can help
bend and cut.
bend and cut and that kind of stuff.
But yeah, on average, you really just need a screwdriver.
You need a screwdriver.
It was a trick question because that's
Zip ties?
People are always like, oh no, they think building a PC is like
No.
Maintaining an engine on a car. It's not even close. It's so much more straightforward. And again, it's continuously getting easier and easier. And again, guys, if you are interested in learning more, go to PCDIY.com because we do have an initiative going on all month. We're going to be ending the month with a Rocket League tournament. There will be giveaways involved, so be sure to check out that page to learn more about it. But man, just looking at the PCs behind you, it gives me that drive and that hunger to like get a new build going because
yeah, and I think that's also what has motivated me, because from doing these builds, I have gotten direct messages from other females or even females that I know personally that are sim racing that need to do upgrades on their computer that had once been like, no way, I can't do this, to I actually just swapped out my CPU, or I just changed the graphics card, or other people saying, I'm going to build a PC because I saw your video.
That's
and
awesome.
I think that's really cool because it is definitely a space where, I mean, even on PC DIY day, it was all men on the builders panel. And I love men. I'm married to a great man. But I think having females in the space is going to broaden the audience and ultimately bring more females consumers of the industry and up those sales on the female side, which at the end of the day is what we want to.
Like you said, though,
we need representation in PC DIY because anyone can build, and if you want to build, you should. And
you don't really have to be an expert, because I am not from the PC world.
And you have built, like I've probably built, I don't know, Jake and he asked me the other day, and it's probably in the neighborhood of 50 to 70 PCs, and none of them look as beautiful as the three you've got behind you.
Right.
That you've built as someone who's fairly new to the space, and it shows that literally anyone, even if you are new to the space, you're inexperienced with PCs, you can come in, and especially now, you have these videos that can show other people, but there's such a community that is willing to help and that you can turn to and realize that it's really easy. And I'm so glad to see, especially you coming into this space, because you're right, there does need to be more representation. There are plenty of us guys building PCs and showing ourselves building PCs. But it's wonderful to see, people that, the women in my life can look to and say, yeah, I can do that too. There's someone, that's building incredible things, and it's not a dude doing it.
Well, I've been doing this for 16 years, and you got 3 builds like Chris said that are way more aesthetically pleasing than mine. Just the cable management, the attention to detail, the how well thought out every single build is, and like that's part of the
Sorry, I cut you off.
No, that's just part of the appeal, though, for a lot of people, right? It's just having this. It's almost part of your furniture at that point. You're gonna look at it every day. You're gonna have it on your desk. It's gonna be the centerpiece of your office. And it's something, you know, there's a whole subreddit about battle stations where people show off their build, and you know, the desktop is a huge component in that, and making that fit the theme and the vibe. And you know, these are very bright, vibrant PCs. There's other ways to do it. There's so much customization. Maybe you don't want RGB. Maybe you want something that just has a subtle glow or a pulse to it or something. All those things are, you know, opened up and available to the user, which is, I think, one of the biggest appeals to PC DIY.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
I mean, speaking of like more females, but truthfully, I've learned pretty much everything from watching other males on YouTube and their videos. I
that
mean,
changes with you.
when I did my Threadripper build and I had to pull apart the Titan RTXs,
Oh,
I was like, okay, can I really do this? I mean, I was like watching videos of people just taking apart GPUs, but then being so new, I was like, I need to see this GPU taken apart, because if I mess anything up, and I remember that was so hard to separate. It took me almost 30 minutes, and I specifically remember I was sitting here by myself, and I'm like, you can do this. Like, I literally had to give myself a pep talk. And then when I popped it open, I was like, okay, here we go. And then you finish and you're like, it's actually not that bad. So like, even water cooling your GPU,
yeah.
like it's this really rocket science. And especially now, in my most recent AMD build, the EK manual it was so much, not that it wasn't clear for the Titan RTXs, but for this GPU that I just did, it was so much easier to follow. It, like, I don't know, just shows you exactly what screws, how many screws, what types of screws you should be counting. There's 16 that come out. Okay, there's the 16, boop, pop it off. And it's like, the point of my story is, don't be intimidated to try something. Don't let it stop you if you've never done it. There's no contest, there's no race.
Yeah.
Just take your time and you can do it. And when you're done, you're like, okay, that wasn't so bad. And then the next time around, you're like, this is so easy. I can do this.
Absolutely. And I think what
You
you
have
said,
something so cool to show off.
yeah, just make sure you
Exactly.
give yourself a day to do it. Sit down, take your time, enjoy the process, enjoy that, you know, experience where you have everything laid out in front of you. Take a photo, start to finish, and just appreciate it, because it's such a fun activity that you're going to save yourself some money. You're going to build something that you're proud of. You're going to be able to get exactly what you want out of the build. And, you know, if anybody here builds their first PC from watching this show or from watching one of Deb's videos, please let us know, because that's super cool. We want to see your photos, because frankly, this is something that we're all, I mean, clearly passionate about. We love PC DIY. We love building PCs. And I have spent way too many hours just looking at forums over the years at people's builds and just being like, wow. And then trying to find exactly what is my dream build, which I now I feel the motivation to do that, because I feel, you know, I'm a competitor. I got to beat Deb. I got to have a superior build, for me at least. At least she might not think it's better, but for me.
Well, you can, I'm all in support of that. See, at the end of the day, you have to remember, I'm not just a builder, I'm a filmmaker.
Yeah.
So for me, just like the auto stuff, I will wait longer to get that higher trim level with the beautiful exterior interior color combination, because it just films so much more artistically. It's so much more fun and intriguing to the eye. So the same thing, that's the kick I'm getting out of some of these, is, you know, they just are so much more intriguing and fun to film. But even the Z11, which isn't anything crazy, I had a ton of fun filming that. Where when you watch the video, it just, like, the sides of the case just look like they pop off, like, in the air. Just kind of like doing it, like being able to film a little bit more artistically in unique ways that I can't necessarily, like, you know, do with a vehicle. So
Right. No,
if you build a crazy PC, I might have to. You're not too far from me. You might have to film it.
There you go. Little collaboration.
Well, I'll give a little teaser. I'm actually building a brand new streaming room. It's like soundproof, the whole deal, and I will be documenting the whole process of building my crazy battle station from the desktop to the desk with RGB strips on the desk, the whole 9 yards. So, don't worry, your wish will be granted, but I'll be filming it myself.
Okay. The other thing though that I wanted to mention is that if, let's say, people are watching and they're just like, I don't want to take apart a GPU, it just totally freaks me out. I have this special product right here.
Oh.
Out of the box
Oh,
that you can just
my
pull
mouth is
out
watering.
and install. So yeah,
Plug and play water cooling.
plug
Who knew?
and play. Exactly. That's pretty cool.
Very cool.
But anyway.
No,
Yeah, there's really nothing about building a PC that's out of the reach of anybody.
Right.
Money and getting the parts, sure.
Yeah.
But as far as actually physically doing it, I mean, I feel like you have really shown that. I've watched a lot of your videos and seen what you've put together, and you've tackled it. You've nailed it. Like, you have put together PCs better than I've seen other people, try and do that level, and it's not always up to the standards that you produce. And I guess I just have to say that I'm so impressed and
it is
inspired by what you're doing in that space. And it's so great that, like I think Jake said earlier, it's you learned everything from watching Min on YouTube so that you could make your own videos, and now people can learn from you. Men can learn from you, women can learn from you, anyone can learn from someone that they just feel like they connect to, that they feel represented by. And I think that's amazing. And
Thank you.
anyone can do
That's
this.
very kind of you.
No,
That's right. Anyone can do this.
You're absolutely a powerful ambassador in the space. And, I think we are going to be wrapping up the show now. So I would like you to plug yourself fully. Let everyone know where they can follow you, find more of the content you're making. You mentioned a lot of these builds. You make videos for them. And I think everyone should do themselves a favor and check out these videos.
Sure. So I post videos on YouTube. My channel is Andie the Lab. I also live stream my sim racing endeavors, which actually, starting pretty much like right now, I'm doing a 60-day sim racing challenge where I am going to be basically live streaming almost daily, and I will be having a very special giveaway to a Twitch subscriber. It may be a very coveted GPU,
Oh, no.
a 3090 potentially. But also,
Well, I'm
if
gonna
you just
tune
happen to love dogs and cars, come check us out. Yeah, Andie the Lab. That's us.
And Abby getting robbed.
And Abby. That's right.
All right, Chris, how about you?
This is what you're looking at right here is my next week or so. I'm also going to be doing a lot of unboxings of various Z590 motherboards. So if you're excited about getting one, especially for the 11th gen release, I'm going to be taking you inside the box just to see what every board looks like, what it's got. And that's going to be a lot of fun. That's something kind of new for us. We haven't really tackled unboxings per se. And so yeah, we're going to be bringing that to you, and that's going to be a lot of fun. Making some TikTok videos. Shout out to Brian, our TikTok guy. Doing some collabs with
another
him.
Texan that's going through some rough patches right now.
Yeah, I think. Oh, special guest.
That's Andie.
Oh,
The show is now
that's
complete.
Andie. Yes. Oh.
Where's Abby?
I looked over at chat earlier and I saw one or two people asking.
Oh, there was
asking
more
where
than
Andie
more
was.
than one or two people asking for Andie, the star of the show
I
here.
got it.
Ah,
I gotta try to
Cute,
get
cute.
Abby. Abby, come here. Up. She needs a little help. Andie's back up.
Andie's back. Oh, treat for Andie.
Love it.
There she is.
But yeah, guys, be sure to check out our TikTok, our Twitter, because all those unboxings and builds will be showing it off there. Instagram, you know, the ROG network is robust. Also here on Twitch, we do regular streams like this show. Pulse, we have another podcast where we just sit back and talk about video games every Tuesday called ROG Side Quest. And on Fridays, I play a variety of games. Tomorrow, I'll be playing Among Us for the first time with several members of the ROG stream team. And I don't know what to expect, but it'll be interesting at the very least because, yeah, no, it should be fun. I know Among Us is very popular and it's going to be a blast. Beyond that, guys, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Andie, for being our first, or Deb. I read the name on the screen. I'm like,
All
Andie
good.
the Lab, for joining us, being our first ever guest here on Pulse. It really was a treat.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, appreciate the support and just the welcomeness.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate everything you're
Always
doing
great talking to you.
in the space. It is great to have, like you said, a female ambassador that is pushing forward and really just kicking butt in the PC DIY space, building awesome machines. But guys, thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next time. GG's.